Thank you for tuning in to another episode of NBA Talk with Jaywalk. I'm your host, Jonah Walkenfoos, and today we're going to be talking about how next year will be the last year of NBA on TNT. We're also going to be doing a team preview on the Charlotte Hornets, and we are also going to be talking about, is Anthony Edwards too cocky? So make sure to stay tuned. Okay, so NBA on TNT has reported that next season will be their last season, featuring Ernie Johnson, Kenny Smith, Shaquille O'Neal, and Charles Barkley. This is severely disappointing news to me, as they have been my favorite streaming platform to watch while watching the NBA. There's just so many good memories of, just Shaq and Charles Barkley being stupid. Kenny the Jet Smith just running to the board to show the highlights at halftime, while also having players like Shaq and Charles Barkley racing him, and then Ernie Johnson just kind of being the glue of that group, just keeping them together. So I've kind of pulled up a little bit of an article that will kind of explain why NBA TNT is going to be, or TNT is going to be losing its rights with the NBA. So Warner Bros. Discovery, also known as WBD, they're essentially the ones that had to bid to keep the NBA to keep streaming on TNT, the channel, and essentially they were $200 million short on their bid, which Charles Barkley actually said something, and he claimed they've screwed this thing up. I 100% agree with you, Charles Barkley. Just kind of my perspective on NBA on TNT. They've been literally like the most fun thing to watch. Like, if you watch the NBA, I almost can guarantee you've watched at least one game streamed on TNT. And when you have that group, it's so much more fun to watch and listen to, because when you get those older players, those players that have played in the league, and those players that know how the game of basketball works, when they talk about basketball, they be real with you. Like, they're going to be real, and they're going to tell the truth. And they also say some funny stuff. I mean, when I'm listening to Charles Barkley talk, and how he's talking about how a lot of the players are softer nowadays, which I 100% agree with, it's just kind of funny. It's like Charles Barkley is just being real out there, and I just like seeing how he's causing so much, debates between people, but it's just funny. But for some reason, everybody still likes to listen to them, even though they make some controversial takes. They like listening to them because they're NBA legends, and who doesn't want to hear three dudes, actually four, I'm going to include Ernie in this. They're just really funny people, and they just make the game of basketball fun to watch, and just fun to if you don't watch the NBA and you watch NBA on TNT, you're going to have a good laugh. I feel like it's not just basketball. It's also just entertainment. It's it's meshed in one. I don't know how to explain it very well, but it's kind of hard. It's really hard to explain this. And when they're saying in the article, when Charles Barkley said they've screwed this up, they were saying, yeah, he put that mildly. And I agree. How are you going to mess up one of the best, if not the best, streaming platforms for the NBA by messing up a bid? You were $200 million short on your negotiations, and now you don't have the rights to the NBA. Now, obviously, the NBA, I believe they were saying they got rights. Now they have potentially negotiations going on with Disney, which Disney's kind of taken over everything, as well as Comcast and Amazon. So, I mean, we're kind of seeing not just the NBA, but we've been seeing this happen with other sports, like the NFL. I believe it's Thursday nights you have to watch on it's Amazon. And we're starting to see Peacock become more of a sporting thing, where they're going to be able to stream sports more, like major sports like MLB, NFL, NBA. It's just ridiculous to me. I think these streaming platforms, having multiple of them, is just stupid. Having people having to buy multiple streaming platforms just to watch maybe their favorite team play or they're just their favorite sport in general happen. It's just ridiculous to me. And I think it's just the NBA is just greedy for money. And just all of these other sports as well. NFL. I mean, I know a lot of people are complaining about how they have to watch, I believe it's Thursday Night Football on Amazon Prime. Like, you have to buy Amazon Prime just to watch your favorite team play on Thursday. Like, that's ridiculous to me. I think it should just all be on the same streaming platform. I don't know. I think they're just, obviously it's money hungry, it's a business, but it's just ridiculous. So let me know what you guys think. You already know what I think, so yeah. Okay, so next up we're going to talk about the Charlotte Hornets, and this is going to be a team preview. So the Charlotte Hornets ended with the third worst record. They were tied for the third worst, and I talked about the last team in the previous episode, the Portland Trail Blazers. They ended the season with a record of 21-61. They were definitely a team that was injured a lot with the injuries of LaMelo Ball, which has actually been kind of a concern lately as he's been getting injured a lot lately, and that is causing a lot of concerns on maybe is he going to be that player they can rely on to be their kind of quote-unquote franchise player for the future. But yeah, they have had a lot of injuries. Mark Williams, their rookie last season, he came out of Duke, very promising player. Just the injuries in general. You have Miles Bridges, who's had legal issues in the past, so who knows how that's going to work out. But overall, I do think they have a decent future, though. I think they have a solid foundation of young players. You've got some notable players like LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, who they drafted last year. He was a very good rookie, in my opinion. He was the number 2 pick, sorry. He showed a lot of shooting abilities. He also showed slashing, his defense. I think he could be a really good two-way player. One of his favorite players is Paul George, and I could see why, because he plays very similar to him. And then you got players like Miles Bridges, who, yes, set aside the legal issues. Basketball-wise, he's a great player. He's going to be a player that I think he can average 20 to 25 points per game as like the second or third scoring option on that team. And then I think the other notable player I have to mention is Mark Williams. Just kind of one of those lob threats. We've seen in Dallas how Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively has worked out very well for them. I think Mark Williams has a very similar play style. He really reminds me of like kind of how Dwight Howard was a little bit. Obviously, he's not as good as Dwight Howard, but just the athleticism and shot blocking ability that really does show me a little bit of Dwight Howard, like young Magic Dwight Howard. Obviously, he won't be that good, but it's just cool to see the centers translating almost back to the traditional big men where we had like the early 2000s big men where you were able to catch a lob and you were able to play tough defense down low and be able to finish down low strong. Maybe not be able to space the floor the best, but it's also starting to translate to where they can shoot the threes at a decent clip. Like, it's a respectable clip. Doesn't mean it's good, but it's a clip where they have to come out and guard you every once in a while just because they know you're going to be able to shoot the ball somewhat. But overall, this Hornets team, they're not the worst team when it comes to future. And when I look at a lot of these teams that are at the lower part, I'm looking at how does the future of this team look rather than how does the present team look, because the present team is kind of hard to tell because there's still pieces of the puzzle that are missing on these teams. The Hornets, in my opinion, they have the playmaker in LaMelo. He just has to stay healthy. Brandon Miller's their scorer. I think he should be their number 1 scorer next season. And he's also a great defender. They have the athleticism. He's also a solid shooter in Miles Bridges. And then Mark Williams, they got that interior rim protector. I think they just need to build a bunch of just shooters, kind of 3-and-D kind of players to surround this team. And then obviously, most importantly, you got to stay healthy. if they don't stay healthy, they're going to just continue to stay at the bottom of this league and the bottom of the standings. This Hornets team is very intriguing to me. I like this team, and with this 6th pick in the draft, a lot of people are projecting him, Stephon Castle from UConn to go there. That would be a great pick. I mean, he's not the greatest shooter, and I know I just said they need shooters, but he's a very high motor, high energy player. He really does remind me of kind of like a Josh Hart. I think he could pan out to be like a Josh Hart, which if you guys didn't watch how the Knicks playoff run, Josh Hart was one of their most important players. He wasn't necessarily able to knock down the three all the time, but he was great at getting to the basket, and he was also great at getting offensive boards and just coast-to-coast offense. So this Hornets team does have a lot of promise. I just think they need to all just mesh it together and get some shooters on that team. And with a lot of these teams, the common occurrence is they need experience. So yeah, this team just needs experience, and I think they're going to be in a good position. I think they're definitely not on the same timeline as some of these younger teams that I will be talking about soon, like in the next couple of episodes, but they do have a promising future, and I'm excited to see how the Hornets are going to attack this draft and free agency. But yeah, look out for the Hornets. I think they could be a dark horse team to potentially be a play-in team next season, and I know that's a crazy thing to say, but if they could bring Miles Bridges back, I believe he's an unrestricted free agent this year. If they could bring him back, this could be a sneaky, dangerous team. And I know a lot of people might think I'm stupid for that, and I might be stupid for that when I look back at this podcast in a couple months when the NBA season starts up, but you never know. So yeah, that's my NBA team preview on the Charlotte Hornets. Okay, so we're finally going to do this final topic on how Anthony Edwards might be a little too cocky talking into these press conferences. And thank you for the suggestion for telling me, talking about interviews that have happened post-game or pre-game. So this is definitely going to be something I'm going to go into. So thank you for those suggestions. So Anthony Edwards, as you know, or maybe you don't know, the Timberwolves are down 3-1 in the series right now to the Dallas Mavericks. They're currently playing right now as I'm recording this. The Mavericks may be going on to the finals by the time you listen to this or watch this. Anthony Edwards has been saying some interesting things. I don't necessarily have the quotes up, but I know he's been kind of talking about how he's going to be taking a ton of shots and how the team's going to be all right. And how nobody's necessarily worried about the rest of this series and how they're down. I think Anthony Edwards needs to calm down. Okay, I love Anthony Edwards. I think he's a very talented player. I think he's got a bright future. He really does remind me of kind of how Michael Jordan played. I mean, I'm not saying he's like Michael Jordan. I'm just saying he has very similar play styles when it comes to like how he shoots the ball. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I'll go into that later in details in maybe a different episode. But anyways, Anthony Edwards has been kind of that player where it's like, you got to stop talking until you prove it. You know what I'm saying? So I think like right now he's kind of been all talk, no execution. Because basketball is a team sport. It doesn't matter if you put up 100 points in one game. If you lose the game, nobody cares. Like, I'm going to be brutally honest with you. Anthony Edwards just needs to focus on basketball, okay? I know maybe his comments have been basketball related even, but, I mean, I don't know. There's something about him. He's got a little too much swagger on him right now. He just needs to humble himself, and he needs to play basketball. Because right now, you're messing around with one of the better players in the NBA and Luka Doncic, and he's kicking your butt right now. Like, that's just kind of what's happening. Him and the Dallas Mavericks, which, by the way, in my last episode, I said that I don't think that Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford will be able to hold up against Cat and Rudy Gobert. I was completely wrong by that, and I will admit it. Okay, Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford, shout out to you guys. You guys have been playing excellent. They've been excellent in shot blocking. They've been cooking Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert, and they're making them look stupid, and they're like a lot younger than both of them. I mean, maybe not Cat, but you know what I mean. Like, they're playing very well. But back to Anthony Edwards, I think with him, he just needs to focus on his team and helping the team win. Right now, it feels like sometimes he's trying to play a little too much hero ball. There's kind of at the late game scenario where I'm kind of seeing him trying to put up like a forced shot or something like that. And sometimes maybe you need to pass up to your teammates. I mean, you have good shooters. You have playmakers on your team that can make plays for your team and help you win a ball game, okay? Being unselfish is not a bad thing. Sometimes you have to be selfish. Like we saw the last series, I think Nikola Jokic, I think he should have been a little more selfish. I think he was a little too unselfish. Well, right now, I feel like Anthony Edwards is the opposite. He's too selfish and not enough unselfish. Like, you got to find that, you got to intertwine both. Like, there's moments maybe at the end of the game, yes, you do want to put up a ton of shots. But at the same time, if you're not hitting your shots, pass the ball. Same with Cat. Pass the ball. Like, I don't know what the Timberwolves are doing. Like, they're trying to play, like, ego ball or something. Like, they just look lost. And we're watching the Mavericks play like a team, and what are they doing? They're kicking the Timberwolves' butt. We saw the Nuggets last year when they won the championship. How did they win, in my opinion? Because they were just playing like a team. They were playing very well like a team. So, Anthony Edwards, I think, just needs to be quiet. And I have one question for you guys, actually. And I just want to know your opinion. So I kind of got, there was like an Instagram comment I saw about this, and I thought it was pretty unique, so I wanted to share it. I don't remember who it was, but they said that at the end of the game, referees should be interviewed. Should they be interviewed about some maybe controversial calls and maybe overriding from challengers or something? Like, maybe they should be interviewed and see what their actual opinion was. I'm just kind of curious on what you guys think. And let me know. Like, I'm very curious to see what you guys think of that. Okay, so we've done the history now in the last episode, and I asked the question, in the 1994-1995 season, there was 2 players that won the Rookie of the Year award. Who was it? So those 2 players that basically got co-Rookie of the Year was Grant Hill and Jason Kidd. So that's pretty cool. And then I also asked for the bonus question, how many other times has this happened in NBA history? It happened 3 other times, including that one. So basically 2 other times, but it's happened 3 times in total in history. So that was the answer to the last episode question. So now the question I have for this episode that you should answer and let me know, and then I'll give you the answer next episode. What are the top 3 NBA teams that have won the most NBA championships in history? So let me know what that is, and I will let you know next episode. And speaking of next episode, or not, never mind. I don't know what I'm talking about right now. That is the end of this episode of NBA Talk with Jaywalk. This was episode number 12. I'm so happy you guys were able to tune in. Thank you guys so much for tuning into these episodes. Remember, every Friday I will post at 8 a.m. Mountain Time. That is when the podcast will go out on YouTube and Spotify. So you could either listen to it on Spotify or you can watch it on YouTube. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Make sure to check me out on Instagram. It's NBA Talk with _Jaywalk3. I will see you guys in the next episode. God bless. Have a good one.